The stars above the Galactic Council burned cold and distant. For centuries, the galaxy had looked down on Earth as a small and unimportant world, a planet of dreamers, of fragile bodies, of endless wars and slow progress. To the great empires among the stars, humanity was nothing more than a curiosity. But that changed when a strange transmission reached every major world at once. The message came from Earth, clear and simple. "We have been holding back," it said. "Do not push us further." The council chambers erupted in laughter. The reptilian Varn, the insectoid KRYLL, and the crystal-bodied Sarans mocked the human arrogance. To them, Earth was barely able to defend its own system. A warning from such a primitive race was comedy, not danger. But one among them did not laugh. Ambassador Elise Caron, the only human allowed inside the council, stood in silence. Her eyes were calm, her voice steady as she spoke. "You do not understand what you are doing," she said softly. "Earth has limits, but those limits are chosen." The council leader, High Consul Valtor, waved his hand dismissively. "Chosen limits," he repeated with a grin. "Tell your people to prepare for inspection." The room filled with echoes of mockery. Valtor leaned closer. "Your planet is surrounded by our fleets," he hissed. "What can you possibly hold back from us?" Elise did not answer. Instead, she simply stared at him. For a long moment, no one moved. Then she said, "When the stars go silent, remember this day." And with that, she walked out of the chamber. Across the galaxy, the broadcast of Earth's message was replayed 1,000 times. Some worlds ignored it, some debated it, some feared it. But deep in the darkness beyond Jupiter, something ancient began to stir. Hidden structures, miles long, awakened from centuries of silence. The oceans of Earth trembled as secret facilities activated. No one outside the planet knew what was happening beneath the surface. In orbit, human scientists watched the data feed in disbelief. Energy readings climbed beyond anything they had ever measured. Old commanders whispered that the Wrath Protocol was no myth after all. The Earth Defense Command quietly raised the alert to level 0, the highest level, reserved for extinction events. Meanwhile, alien probes entered the solar system to observe. They found nothing but empty silence. The probes transmitted their signals back to the Council, but each feed ended suddenly. A burst of static, then darkness. Something had swallowed them whole. On Mars, an ancient military bunker opened for the first time in 200 years. Admiral Reyes stood inside, his gray uniform glowing under red emergency lights. He looked at the holographic display showing fleets moving toward Earth. 7 armadas, he muttered. "They still think we are asleep." His aide turned to him. "Sir, are we activating the armada?" Reyes nodded slowly. "Not yet," he said. "Let them come closer." In the council chambers, chaos grew. Valtor demanded immediate invasion. Others urged caution, recalling the strange disappearances of their scouts. But greed and arrogance ruled their hearts. They believed Earth was bluffing. They believed no primitive species could threaten the stars. At the same time, in a quiet control room deep under the Pacific Ocean, a young technician named Leah watched the old systems light up one by one. Massive hangars hidden under the seafloor began to open. She whispered to herself, "They will never believe this." Above her, the waves glowed faintly red as the first Titan-class warship rose through the depths. Water poured off its black steel hull like rain. The ship's name gleamed across its side, HSS Nemesis. From the moon, satellites recorded the event in silence. The Earth's night side glowed with artificial light patterns shaped like constellations. To the untrained eye, they looked random, but to those who knew, they formed a signal, a single phrase written across continents. "We try to warn you." In a distant sector, a fleet commander of the KRYLL watched the data feed. "What is that?" he asked, his mandibles twitching. "Unknown transmission," replied the officer. "Origin, Earth." Before they could analyze further, every ship in the KRYLL fleet powered down. The stars around them flickered as if reality itself had been bent. Back on Earth, Admiral Reyes received the final confirmation. "All systems ready," said Leah's voice through the comms. Reyes looked toward the sky. "Then we begin," he whispered. He pressed a single button, and across the solar system, hidden stations powered up. From Pluto's orbit to Mercury's core, long-buried engines hummed awake. And far away, on the Galactic Council world, Ambassador Elise looked up at the night sky. The stars above her flickered once, then steadied. She smiled sadly, knowing what was about to begin. "They were warned," she said softly. "They chose not to listen." The wind outside carried the faint hum of distant thunder. Except there were no storms on this world. Only the first echoes of something vast and unstoppable rising in the dark. Hook ending. The warning wasn't a threat. It was a countdown. The galaxy watched in silence as Earth's warning faded into static. No one understood what had truly begun. Across hundreds of worlds, governments dismissed the message as human desperation. But in the shadows, their spies whispered that something was wrong. Something was moving in the dark between stars. In the command fortress of the Galactic Council, High Consul Valtor paced impatiently. His advisors reported strange energy readings from human space. Massive heat signatures rising from the oceans. Long-range scans failed. Ships sent to investigate vanished without trace. Valtor slammed his fist against the table. "Find out what they're hiding," he roared. But deep inside, even he felt the chill of uncertainty. Thousands of light years away, in the cold orbit of Neptune, a fleet of human drones awakened after centuries of silence. They unfolded like silver petals, forming a web across the void, each one linked to a command node buried within the ice. The network pulsed once, sending a signal that rippled across the solar system. On Mars, Admiral Reyes stood before a vast holographic display. Lines of red light connected every planet and moon. He turned to his officers. "It's time," he said quietly. "Activate the Armada." His words echoed through every bunker, every hidden base. Deep under Earth's crust, machinery the size of mountains began to stir. The Pacific Ocean churned as waves rose hundreds of meters high. Hidden domes cracked open, releasing fire and light. From beneath the depths emerged colossal shapes, sleek, black, and silent. Each ship was kilometers long, their hulls absorbing all light. They rose one after another, breaking through the surface like sleeping giants awakening. The water around them hissed and boiled from the energy surging through their cores. Above the Arctic, clouds twisted into spirals as orbital cannons came online. A storm of electricity spread across the atmosphere. Civilian satellites captured glimpses before going dark. What they recorded would later be called the Ascension. Millions of people on Earth looked to the sky and saw the impossible. A fleet rising into space, glowing red beneath the clouds. Meanwhile, alien outposts along the Sol border detected movement. Dozens of blips appeared on their scanners. Their officers laughed. "Human cargo ships," they said. But seconds later, their laughter died. Those blips multiplied into hundreds, then thousands. The sensors shorted out under the data overload. One captain managed to send a final message before his ship vanished. "It's not a defense fleet," he said. "It's an army." Back on the Council world, panic began to spread. Reports arrived from the KRYLL Empire. 2 scout fleets gone, no survivors. From the Saran Dominion, communications blacked out near the Oort Cloud. From the Varn Republic, stars flickering unnaturally near the human system. Valtor called an emergency meeting. His voice shook with forced calm. "They cannot hide forever," he said. "Prepare for full-scale invasion." But even as he spoke, new data arrived. Human ships had been detected beyond the Sol system. How could that be possible when the Council fleets were still days away? No one could explain it. Some whispered that humans had found a way to fold space itself. Others said the reports were lies meant to scare them. Valtor silenced them all. "Begin the attack," he ordered. His pride outweighed his fear. On Earth, Admiral Reyes stood on the deck of the HSS Nemesis. The flagship glowed with dark light, its engines humming like a living heart. He stared into the void beyond the viewport. The human fleet stretched out before him like a sea of fire. Every ship bore the mark of the Earth Federation, a burning blue star. Reyes spoke softly into his calm. "To every captain of the Armada, humanity stands united. For too long, we've hidden in the shadows of lesser beings. Today we rise." The fleet began to move, silently at first, then with thunder. Warp gates opened across the system, blooming like black flowers. The space around them bent, folded, and vanished. The first wave of ships disappeared into the unknown. Moments later, alien colonies at the edge of human space began to scream across open channels. "Unknown contacts inbound," they cried. Then their signals cut off, one by one. Leah, the young technician under the Pacific Command Center, watched the readings in awe. She whispered to herself, "We really were holding back." Her voice trembled between fear and pride. Above her, the planet itself seemed alive. Every volcano, every tectonic plate pulsed faintly with hidden power, as if the Earth itself was breathing in anticipation. In a dark observatory on the far side of the moon, an old scientist watched the stars blink out one by one. He turned to his apprentice. "Do you see it?" he asked. "The stars," she whispered, "they're going dark." He nodded slowly. "No," he said, "they're being hidden by something vast and far beyond, in the endless black of interstellar space." Alien fleets closed in around Earth, their weapons charged, their pride blinding them to fear. But they didn't know what waited for them behind that silent blue planet. They didn't know that the wrath of humanity had already been set free. Hook ending. They thought Earth was defenseless until the oceans began to move. The galaxy had never known silence like this. For the first time in centuries, every major world stopped transmitting. Every government, every fleet, every admiral was waiting for an answer. But Earth gave them none. Only the cold stillness of a planet preparing for war. In the void near Pluto, the human fleet gathered like a storm. Thousands of ships drifted in formation, silent, patient, unstoppable. Each one bore the crest of Earth, an iron circle with a single burning star at its heart. Their hulls shimmered with black energy, invisible to most scanners. They were ghosts in the dark and death in motion. Inside the HSS Nemesis, Admiral Reyes stood before a glowing map of the solar system. The enemy fleets were closing in, 7 council armadas, 2,000 ships strong. He looked at his officers. "Once they cross Neptune's orbit, they'll see us," he said. A young officer hesitated. "Sir, should we fire first?" Reyes smiled faintly. "No," he said. "Let them fire, so history remembers who began this." Moments later, the alien fleets appeared, their massive cruisers glowing with green plasma. The lead ship, belonging to the Varn Empire, broadcast across all channels. "This is the Galactic Council fleet." The voice declared proudly, "Surrender your weapons or be erased." The humans didn't reply. Only static filled the void. The alien commander sneered. "Very well," he said. And with a single gesture, thousands of plasma rounds lit the darkness. The sky turned into a sea of light. For a moment, the aliens believed they had won. But then, the light vanished, swallowed whole by something unseen. Their scanners went blank. Every reading froze. A cold voice echoed across all frequencies. "You were warned." The HSS Nemesis moved, not like a ship, but like a god rising from the deep. Its energy field expanded outward, bending space like ripples in water. The alien rounds stopped mid-flight, suspended in frozen time. Then, with a single pulse of energy, the human ship released them back toward their senders. Every alien vessel hit by its own weapon exploded in a storm of fire. In less than 12 seconds, 2,000 ships turned into drifting metal and ash. On distant worlds, alien civilians watched in horror as live feeds cut to black. The last image transmitted was a single human ship, floating calmly among wreckage. The galaxy fell silent. No one spoke, no one moved. It was the first time they truly understood what Earth had meant by holding back. In the council chambers, panic erupted. High Consul Valtor shouted orders, send reinforcements. All fleets. But his aides hesitated, trembling. Consul, one whispered. The reinforcements are gone. Valtor froze. What do you mean gone? Sir, all communication with Sector Theta, Sigma, and Rho ended 2 minutes ago. Valtor stared at the empty hologram before him. One by one, the glowing lights that represented his fleets faded out. Back in the Sol system, Admiral Reyes walked through the bridge. He stared at the vast debris field outside the viewport. Recover survivors, he ordered. His officers looked at him in disbelief. Sir, there are no survivors, one whispered. Reyes sighed, then sent a message. To who? The comms officer asked. Reyes looked toward the stars. To everyone, he said, let them see. Across the galaxy, every communication channel flickered to life. A single broadcast reached every colony, every empire, every home. It showed the wreckage of the Council's grand fleet. It showed Earth's flag, burning bright against the darkness. And it ended with a voice, calm, human, and final. This was our warning, it said. Do not mistake mercy for weakness again. On alien worlds, fear spread like fire. In the KRYLL Empire, military commanders destroyed their own databases. In the Saran Dominion, priests began to worship humanity as divine retribution. In the Varn Republic, soldiers refused to fight, throwing down their weapons. Everywhere, the same whisper echoed. They unleashed it. In the command deck of the HSS Nemesis, the crew stood in silence. The ship's AI, named Athena, spoke softly. Admiral, all targets neutralized. Reyes nodded, his face calm, but his eyes heavy with sorrow. This was not victory, he said quietly. This was a lesson, but the lesson was far from over. Because even as the galaxy trembled, Earth was not done. Beneath the planet's surface, more engines roared to life. And in the darkness of interstellar space, gateways began to open. The next phase of humanity's plan had begun. In her quarters aboard the Nemesis, Leah stared at the stars. Her voice was a whisper, they'll never forgive us. Reyes's voice came through the calm, steady as iron. They don't have to forgive us, he said. They only have to remember. Far beyond the battlefield, deep in the shadows between galaxies, something even greater stirred. Massive silhouettes moved through the black, ancient and terrible. Not alien, not machine, but human. Sleeping fleets from forgotten wars began to awaken. One after another, their lights blinked on, spreading like stars reborn. The galaxy thought the war was over, but humanity had only just begun to rise. Hook ending. In one shot, the galaxy learned fear, but fear was only the beginning. The galaxy was burning. What began as a warning had become a storm that no one could stop. The Council's greatest fleets were gone, turned into drifting metal. Worlds that once ruled through fear now whispered in terror. For the first time in history, the galaxy feared a single name, Earth. Admiral Reyes stood on the bridge of the HSS Nemesis. The dark light of dying suns reflected on the warship's hull. His officers waited in silence. All systems ready, said Leah, her voice steady but low. Reyes looked toward the stars. It's time, he said. Begin Wrath Protocol. Across the Milky Way, ancient stations hidden for millennia came to life. Massive rings of metal spun slowly, opening gates to distant systems. Each gate pulsed with blue fire. From them poured the human fleets, cold, silent, unstoppable. For every world that had mocked humanity, A new shadow appeared in its sky. On the Saran world of Ktha, the people woke to find the clouds glowing red. Moments later, the HSS Valkyrie descended, its engines rumbling like thunder. The alien defenders fired everything they had, but the human ship's shields absorbed every blast without effort. Then the Valkyrie released a single drone, a sphere of white light. When it touched the surface, the entire city went still. Every weapon, every ship, every engine shut down. The humans didn't destroy the planet. They simply took its power away. On the KRYLL homeworld, soldiers gathered in panic. Their commanders screamed orders. But then, from orbit, a voice filled every channel. "This is Admiral Reyes of Earth," it said. "Lay down your arms, and you will live." The KRYLL generals hesitated, trembling. They had fought for centuries, conquered dozens of species. But now, one human voice brought them to their knees. Back on the Galactic Council world, chaos reigned. High Consul Valtor smashed his fist on the command table. "They're everywhere," he shouted. "Every gate, every system, they're already there." His aides reported one disaster after another. The Saran Dominion surrendered. The Varn Republic destroyed. The KRYLL Empire occupied. The galaxy that once controlled humanity had fallen in days. But the war wasn't about conquest. Reyes knew that. This wasn't about revenge or glory. It was about justice. Humanity had given the galaxy mercy before. Now, they were giving it truth. In orbit around the shattered Varn capital, the Nemesis hovered silently. Below it, the planet's surface burned, not from bombs, but from data streams. Human AI systems were rewriting entire planetary networks, replacing centuries of corruption with order. The enemy's weapons became tools. Their armies became builders. Their leaders vanished without a trace. On Earth, the world watched through global broadcasts. People stood on rooftops, fields, and mountains. They saw alien skies light up with human fire. And for the first time, they understood that their planet was no longer just a home. It was the heart of an empire. Meanwhile, Leah worked deep within the Pacific Command Base. She studied transmissions from the outer sectors. Her heart pounded as she noticed something strange. The human fleets weren't just attacking. They were searching. Every fleet moved toward the same hidden coordinates. She called the bridge. "Admiral, what are we looking for?" Reyes paused, his eyes dark and distant. "The source," he said, "the reason they feared us in the first place." In the black void beyond the galactic rim, a signal pulsed faintly, older than any known civilization. A human signal recorded hundreds of thousands of years ago. The message was simple. "When we return, the stars will tremble." Reyes stared at it in silence. He realized then that humanity had been here before, long before the Council's rise. The galaxy had forgotten that Earth was not the beginning. It was the return. As the fleets advanced, alien worlds surrendered one after another. Cities went dark, empires crumbled, rulers vanished. And above every conquered world, a single message appeared in the sky. "This is the reckoning." High Consul Valtor, desperate and broken, made one last attempt. He ordered a secret strike, Project Eclipse, a superweapon hidden on a distant moon. It was built to destroy stars themselves. He aimed it at Earth. "Let's see them survive this," he growled. The weapon fired, a beam of pure darkness cutting through space. But before it could reach its target, the HSS Nemesis appeared. Its shields absorbed the energy. Then, with calm precision, the ship fired once. The moon disintegrated into dust. Valtor's final weapon, his final hope, gone in an instant. Reyes stood at the viewport, his voice cold as the void. "They thought wrath meant destruction," he said. "But true wrath is justice delivered without hate." In the following days, the galaxy fell silent. One by one, every alien transmission ended. And in that silence, humanity spoke once more. Balance restored, the message said. The age of arrogance is over. Far beyond the reach of any telescope, near the edge of the universe itself. A massive structure began to glow, a human station from a forgotten era. It opened slowly, releasing golden light into the void. Inside it, something ancient stirred. The voice of the ancestors whispered, "They have awakened again." The galaxy would remember this day forever. The day Earth stopped warning and started judging. The galaxy was a graveyard of broken crowns. Every empire that once claimed to rule the stars now floated in silence. And still, the human armada moved forward, silent, patient, merciless. On the bridge of the HSS Nemesis, Admiral Reyes watched the holomap fill with collapsing signals. Entire civilizations blinking out one by one. He did not smile. There was no joy in justice, only duty. Leah stood beside him, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "Sir, half the galaxy has surrendered," she whispered. Reyes nodded, his voice low. "And the other half will learn soon." Far beyond the Council worlds, human fleets entered the core realms, places no outsider had ever reached. Massive rings of plasma guarded each system, but the human ships did not fire. They simply passed through the barriers as if the laws of physics bowed to them. Alien scientists watched in shock, unable to understand how Earth's technology had advanced so far. Some said they had help from ancient beings. Others whispered that humans were those beings reborn. On the ruins of the KRYLL Citadel, Commander Talon crawled through ash and smoke. He had once commanded 1,000,000 warriors. Now he was the last. A beam of white light cut through the sky as a human dropship descended. From its stepped a figure in black armor, the Earth's sigil glowing on his chest. Talon raised his weapon in desperation, but the human spoke first. "Lay it down," he said quietly. "Your war is over." The KRYLL commander fell to his knees and wept. The Council archives recorded what followed as the 3 days of fire. In those days, every remaining empire fell, not through destruction, but through submission. Human AI fleets disabled entire defense grids without killing a single civilian. The Council capital itself was spared, but surrounded by 30 human flagships. Valtor stood on his balcony watching the sky burn red, his power gone, his voice broken. Inside the Nemesis, Leah found something hidden deep within the Council's data vaults. A record so old it was written before the Council itself existed. It spoke of a war hundreds of thousands of years ago, a war between the first humans and the elder species. It told how humanity had won, but vanished after the victory, leaving only echoes and warnings. Reyes read the record in silence, his hands trembling. "So we did this before," he murmured. Leah looked at him. "What does it mean?" she asked. "It means," Reyes said, "we're not the first humans to deliver reckoning." Across the galaxy, ancient monuments began to glow as hidden codes reactivated. Symbols long forgotten lit up on worlds far apart. Each symbol formed a piece of a map that pointed to the galactic core, to a place called Erebus Vault, the tomb of the first empire of man. Reyes assembled a fleet to go there. Even as he did, messages poured in from alien rulers begging for mercy. He did not answer. The time for words had ended. Only truth remained. When a human fleet entered the Erebus sector, their sensors failed instantly. A massive dark structure floated before them, bigger than any planet. Its surface was covered in ancient Earth runes, still glowing faintly. Leah stared at the screen. "What is that?" she breathed. Reyes answered, his voice barely a whisper. "Our origin." Inside the vault, they found machines older than any known race. Engines that could reshape stars, databases filled with memories of the First War. And, at its heart, a message addressed to them. "To our children," it said, "remember who you are, for the galaxy forgets, but we remember." Reyes felt the weight of 1,000,000 years in his chest. The reckoning was never about revenge. It was about restoration. Humanity had returned not to rule, but to restore balance to a galaxy that had lost its soul. Outside the vault, the fleet received one final transmission from Earth. Phase 3 ready, it read. Reyes looked at Leah, his eyes hard as iron. Begin the ascension, he ordered. Across the Milky Way, every human ship released a pulse of golden light. The light swept through space like a tidal wave. Where it passed, weapons fell silent, wars ended, and the stars themselves shone brighter. No one understood how, but every world felt it. The weight of fear was gone, replaced by something greater. From the ruins of empires, a new order rose, not of submission, but of balance. And above them all, the symbol of Earth burned across the sky. High Consul Valtor, watching from his palace window, fell to his knees. He whispered, "They were never our enemy, they were our beginning." In that moment, the galaxy understood. Humanity was not a threat. They were a reminder of what the stars had forgotten. The galaxy had fallen quiet. No wars, no fleets, no defiance, only silence. And in that silence, humanity's shadow lingered, vast and eternal. It had been 100 years since the reckoning. Worlds once divided now lived under the pact of Earth. No Emperor, no armies marched. Only peace, cold, absolute, and watchful. In orbit above the old council world, the HSS Nemesis drifted silently. Its hull scarred, its engines dim, its mission complete. Admiral Reyes stood before the great viewport, watching a dying sun cast red light across the sky. "Is it over?" Leah asked softly beside him. Reyes didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the stars. He knew peace was never the end, only the pause before something greater. Across the galaxy, cities rebuilt themselves under human guidance. New life flourished where old empires had burned. But everywhere, monuments rose, silent towers carved with the words, "We were warned." And below them, one line engraved in every tongue, "Mercy was our strength." Still, not all could accept the new order. Deep in the void beyond the Perseus arm, whispers began to spread. Remnants of alien fleets gathering in secret, led by those who refused to bow. They called themselves the Remnant of Fire. And they had one mission, to find Earth and finish what the Council began. But Earth was gone, its position wiped from every galactic record, its system sealed behind shifting coordinates no one could decode. Even humanity's own fleets had vanished one by one, leaving only silence and the fear of their return. On the moon of Vorthal Prime, an old alien scholar named Erek discovered a transmission buried deep within ancient archives. It was faint, but unmistakable, human. He replayed it again and again. A woman's voice, calm and timeless, speaking through the static. "When the stars grow quiet, we will return." Erek stared at the message, trembling. He sent it to the remnants of the council, warning them that the humans were not gone. They were waiting. Meanwhile, in the depths of intergalactic space, beyond any mapped region, something vast began to stir. A fleet. No, a migration, moving between galaxies. Millions of ships, their lights dim and golden, like embers drifting through night. Each carried a symbol burned into its hull, the mark of Earth. They were heading home. On board one of the ships, Leah awoke from cryosleep, her body older, her heart heavy with memories of war and peace. A hologram flickered before her. It was Reyes, recorded long ago. "If you're hearing this," he said, "then the galaxy is ready. Humanity must return not as conquerors, but as shepherds. The stars have forgotten balance again." Leah looked through the viewport, and her breath caught. Before her stretched the Milky Way, beautiful, broken, glowing with life. Behind her, the human fleet waited, silent and endless. She whispered to herself, "We warned them once." Her second-in-command stepped forward, and if they forgot, Leah's eyes hardened. "Then we remind them again." Back in the galactic core, ancient sensors flickered to life. Planets turned their eyes to the heavens as faint ripples spread through the void. Old soldiers felt it in their bones. The unmistakable hum of human engines returning. Across every world, a single message appeared on every screen, every device, every wall of light. They're coming back. Panic spread among those who had forgotten the reckoning. The remnant of fire launched fleets toward the edges of the void, hoping to strike first. But as they arrived, they saw nothing but endless darkness. Then the stars behind them began to move. A shape emerged, larger than any planet, wrapped in shadow and light. It was not a ship, it was a world. Earth, reborn, surrounded by an artificial halo of warships and energy rings. The home of humanity had become a fortress of stars. From within its core, a voice echoed across the galaxy, calm and final. "This is Earth," it said. "We return not for war, but for remembrance. Do not test our silence again." Every world fell still, every weapon powered down. The galaxy listened breathless, and then the transmission ended. Centuries later, when historians told the tale, they called it the Age of Silence, an era where no one dared to speak of rebellion, because they knew the truth that echoed beyond the stars. Earth never vanished. It was only waiting, watching, listening. At the edge of the universe, the last human ship turned toward the unknown. Leah stood at its helm, her voice steady and strong. "Let them remember our mercy," she said, "because next time there will be none." The engines roared once, then the fleet vanished into the black, leaving behind only a whisper that carried across eternity.